The joint expedition harmonies reach united humans, Trinity, Crown clans, and even fracture pirates, proving a hybrid fleet can outpace bureaucracy faster than new threats appear. The Dominion tried to sabotage the Alliance live at the Centennial Games, but the plot backfired on hollow broadcasts and public opinion swung fully behind the Open Orbit Compact. Inside the Chasm Nebula, the Coalition harvested ultra-heavy isotopes and released every byte of data, igniting a galaxy-wide surge of open technological exchange. En route home, an ancient Voidsmith relic, an autonomous planet killer, materialized without warning and was neutralized only by blending a Terran meme signal, crowned biofeedback nets, and a Trinity rail singularity cannon. In the aftermath, the High Council admitted the word protectorate was obsolete. The future belongs to those who write the rules together and push the battle logs straight into the public feed. Stay with us if you want to see how the story ends, and don't forget to subscribe. The observation blister of the dreadnought apex of order curved like dark ice above Admiral Kraz Lokar's mantled shoulders, giving him an unrestricted panorama of the blue-white orb that humans called Earth. His four eyelids blinked in slow, sequential cadence, a reflexive signal of focus among the Trinity cast, but inside he simmered with a tension he had not felt in decades. Officially, this was a routine accession visit. Make orbit above a pre-FTL world that had only just nudged probes beyond its heliopause, deliver the Confederation's impeccably translated greeting, demonstrate a sliver of technology. Demand tribute commitments large enough to matter but small enough to seem generous, then leave a permanent embassy to oversee the long, gradual integration of another grateful client species. The charter called it shepherding. Critics and off-record salons called it velvet subjugation. Whatever the term, the system had held for 8 millennia. Kraz had rehearsed every diplomatic permutation in the long glide from Procyon sector. None of them accounted for what his sensors were showing now. Spectral triangulation complete, reported Taylor Third-Cycle Zol, the bridge analyst whose devotion to protocol bordered on fanatic. Counting 61 independent spacecraft in stable Earth parallel orbits. Drive signatures, gravitronic derivation approximating our Mark III spines. Kraz didn't bother to hide his disbelief. Gravitronic? Humans were supposed to be burning cryogenic oxygen. Agreed. Speaker of stars, Zol said, mandibles flicking in agitation. Either the Scout Bureau lied, or someone has been arming the primates behind our backs. The bridge lights dimmed a fraction as sensor feeds stitched into a composite. Dozens of sleek hulls encircled the planet on overlapping tracks, some knife-shaped, others squat and modular, all bristling with heat sinks and phased lattice emitters that sent nervous chills through Kraz's posterior hearts. Gunnery systems, no question. Worse, they were knitted into a coherent geosynchronous net. That bespoke doctrine, command hierarchy, funding everything a primitive blue world, wasn't supposed to possess for another 4 centuries. Captain Marivothal, standing near the tactical dais, let out a low hiss of reluctant admiration. Look at the equatorial ring spacing. Whoever trains them understands kill corridor geometry. They are supposed to be photographing their lunches, Kraz said dryly. Laughter rippled among a few junior officers. It died quickly. Comms, the Admiral continued, opened the standard broadcast and simplified Terran Basic. Perhaps curiosity will drag them into parley. The hail went out, a mathematically perfect sequence of primes framed by universal constants. Then the greeting itself, we come in peace as benevolent wardens of starlight. 40 seconds later the answer arrived unencrypted, riding antiquated radio with a backup laser ping for emphasis. This is Admiral Elena Blackwell of the United Terran Defense Accord. Unregistered capital vessel, you have entered a restricted security perimeter. Reduce velocity, broadcast your full drive signature. And state your purpose. Any advance toward the planet will be treated as a first strike vector. Blackwell's voice carried no tremor, no provincial awe. It sounded like a veteran calmly managing local traffic. Kraz's secondary eyelids snapped shut, a Trinity tell of alarm. Captain Vothal's spines flushed amber. Zol only whispered, authoritative cadence. They've drilled this. The Admiral composed himself. Terran Defense Accord, we acknowledge. I am Kraz Lokar, Speaker of Stars of the High Confederation. We approach as patrons and friends. Our charter forbids hostile intent. Intent is irrelevant, Blackwell replied. Trajectory is observable. Any approach closer than 50,000 kilometers triggers automatic countermeasures. Kraz's translator rendered the final word, countermeasures, with an undertone that made even the Dreadnought's reactor hum feel suddenly fragile. Captain Vothal leaned toward him. If their lattice is as real as it looks, they can saturate Whipple plating before we spool shields. We could still vaporize them all, but not without bruises we'd never explain to Parliament. Bruises. The thought rankled. Confederation doctrine loved bloodless victories. Bruises suggested parity. Suggestions. Kraz murmured. Vothal showed her predatory teeth. Send an envoy shuttle. Measure their hulls from handshake distance. Worst case, we detonate the shuttle's grav core and watch their defensive net fold. Zol made a throttled noise of protest. A core detonation inside that grid will torch ionosphere, Admiral. Billions of civilians. Cross felt the old ideological fault line inside him widen by a micron, conquest efficiency versus ethical decorum. For 3 breaths he imagined the charred sky of a planet that had never fired first. His stomach hearts clenched. No detonations, he said. We adapt. He toggled open broadcast again. Admiral Blackwell, we request a neutral rendezvous. 5 delegates, unarmed. Your pick of location. Pause. When her reply came, the undercurrent of steel remained. Transmit your shuttle's transponder. We'll escort you to Unity Station Orbit 6. Docking bays are waited for your tonnage. Cross muted the channel, exhaled. Unity Station? Not in any strategic files. The Intelligence Bureau would hemorrhage directors over this. Preparation for descent unfolded at whirlwind speed. Ceremonial silks were swapped for reactive pressure mesh, just in case the primitives forget proper hospitality, Captain Vothel quipped. Cross allowed every delegate a single Omni pistol, bio-coded to defensive discharge only. He could already imagine court-martial boards parsing that nuance if things went sideways. The shuttle, a silver pedal in the behemoth's internal bay, launched under escort of 3 Terran corvettes that looked suspiciously overgunned for guidance duty. Cross studied their emblem, intertwined laurel and thunderbolt, stitched not with decorative gold but abrasive thermal paint. Utility first, pomp later. Troubling. The approach to Unity Station stripped suspicion of hyperbole. The habitat was vast, open trusses arranged like petals around a luminous hub, solar sails blossoming between modules to catch sunlight and radiate heat. Slipways bristled with hulls under construction, carriers, research barges. Some designs defied known Confederation archetypes. How many undocumented worms gnawed at his intelligence files? Dock clamps locked. Airlocks cycled. Gravity gradient inside the Terran vestibule read a comfortable 0.9 G. They'd tuned it for Trinity tolerance already. Efficient, forethoughtful. They were met not by wide-eyed diplomats but by 2 officers in crisp charcoal navy and a civilian whose calm gaze weighed more than any uniform. She introduced herself as Secretary General Amira Dubois of the Terran Collective Council. Formalities slid into motion. Palm-to-palm greetings revised for interspecies contact, a whispered translation field calibrating in real time. Cross expected to be paraded into a conference amphitheater. Instead, Dubois guided them along a transparent spinal walkway. Earth spun beneath, the sun flashing mauve against the polarized glass. Far below, Cross noted the shadows of additional defense platforms, mobile, modular, many more than orbital treaties would normally permit an emerging species. Dubois caught his glance. We built redundancies. History suggested the first arrival might not be friendly. You anticipated we'd come as conquerors? She smiled faintly. We never assume best or worst. Only prepare. The next chamber sluiced breath from Cross's lungs. Data pillars rose in concentric tiers, hollow slabs displaying star charts he recognized, Confederation patrol sectors, supply depots, even clandestine worm relay coordinates classified beyond parliamentary oversight. His translator flagged encryption patterns. Yes, genuine. Dubois gestured to the glowing cartography. Stolen? No. Offered. Confederation members disillusioned by your protectorate model sought partners, not patrons. We listened. Captain Vothal's spines bristled. You admit receiving contraband secrets. That is espionage. And you admit your scouts violated our Kuiper sovereignty, Dubois returned. We both have sins. The question is whether we trade apologies or futures. General Marcus Halley, head of Terran Defense Intelligence, joined them, projecting diagrams of dreadnoughts labeled Harbinger and Helios Dawn. Fusion lances, spinal rail singularities, shield harmonics phased just outside Confederation standard. Cross felt his strategic calculus upend. Disarmament concessions were no longer a lever, they were a mutual cage key. They talked. Hours blurred as specifications became philosophy. Humans proposed a multilateral, open-orbit compact, in which Earth retained weapons parity but pledged rapid response aid to any Confederation world threatened by rogue powers. In exchange, they demanded direct council representation and free trade, no resource tithes. Cross's delegation recessed to a glass-walled alcove. Vothel hissed, "This guts our long-range tribute pipeline." Zul, the regulation zealot, surprised them both, but prevents war we might lose. And his voice lowered, gives us access to disruptive Terran metallurgics we currently can't replicate. Cross weighed pride against probability. Pride shrank. Probability roared. Adapt or bleed. He returned to Dubois with a provisional yes. Ratification required the High Council, but he would champion it. Later, alone in a diplomatic suite overlooking thunderclouds blooming over the Amazon, Cross replayed the field recording of Earth's initial hail. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. No fear, only resolve. Perhaps that was what the Confederation had been missing, the electric edge of a young species that hadn't forgotten storms. He thumbed his wrist recording a memo for the Council, These humans are not primitives awaiting our wisdom. They are co-architects of the age that begins today. To refuse them equals irrelevance. To embrace them offers rebirth. Outside, Unity Station rotated. Dock lights winked like tentatively offered hands, and the Admiral, seasoned shepherd of lesser worlds, realized the role reversal was complete. The flock had grown teeth, and the shepherd now chose between partnership and the slow starvation of empire. He permitted himself a final blink sequence, long, contemplative, and sent the memo. The future, he suspected, would arrive faster than any Scout Bureau prediction, and this time the Confederation would not script the ending. Earth, loud and brilliant, would. Admiral Kraz Lokar's encrypted brief arrived at Confederation Core Spire 3 cycles before the High Council's mid-session convocation. The message passed through a parade of relay moons and quantum taps, and every step leaked droplets of truth into alcoves that were never meant to drink such vintage. By the time the digest reached War Prefect Saren Myth on Capital Orbit, 8 distinct factions had seen enough to recognize a tectonic threat. Humans were petitioning for seat parity rather than serfdom. And the most decorated speaker of stars in living memory had endorsed the idea. Saren's inner cartilage stiffened with alarm. Her own Dominion caucus survived on tribute flows from protectorates, ship tithe alloys, gravity well taxes, conscript labor for crystal mines. Strip Earth from the vassal ledger and, worse, set a precedent for true alliances, and the Dominion's fiscal arteries would shrivel within a decade. She summoned her private strategists, tossed Kraz's memo into a holopole, and demanded options that ended with the Terran Compact crushed before ratification day. What none of them knew, yet, was that a mirror plot gestated on Unity Station. Captain Amara Singh and General Halley had decrypted orbital chatter from the Dominion caucus and flagged keywords: preemptive, containment strike, flag officer replacement. They forwarded the snippet to Secretary General Du Bois and Admiral Blackwell, who met Kraz inside a newly shielded conference vault paneled with metamaterials Earth still pretended not to mass-produce. Your rivals intend to detonate this alliance before it draws breath, Du Bois said, sliding the transcript across the tektite table. Kraz scanned the glyph scroll. His dorsal quills tremored, Trinity sign of both anger and shame. Prefect Myth commands 2 dreadnought squadrons within jump radius. Officially, they are training near proximate trade lanes. Unofficially, he snapped the holo shut. They can be here inside 18 Confederation hours. Blackwell's eyes hardened. Can we outrun them? Or outgun? Outgun? Possible. Kraz admitted. But a shooting war at your front door annihilates every argument I just sent my council about enlightened coexistence. He almost said, and it would sterilize half your orbital plane, but decided some truths need not be spoken aloud. Du Bois drummed fingers on tempered glass. Then we outmaneuver. Politics, not plasma. Halley stepped from the shadowed corner. We make the council choose a public vote before Myth fires a shot. He expanded his star map. The Confederation's assembly wheel, 720 light-years away, about to host the Centennial Games. A gaudy festival where member worlds flaunted peacecraft while spies traded weapon blueprints behind potted aurora trees. Every delegate with sway would be there, plus Holonet feeds to 1 trillion spectators. Bring humans to the games, Halley continued. March next to Kraz's delegation, demonstrate equal tech, equal etiquette. Let the galaxy fall in love with us on camera. If Myth shoots after that, she nukes Confederation public opinion. Blackwell flashed a predator's grin. And we field test our Sportvac Mechs and Zero-G showcase while we're at it. Kraz weighed risk. The games were days away. Myth's fleet could intercept en route. But Earth's orbital telescopes already tracked Dominion corvettes massing near Glee's jump point. Waiting in Seoul was suicide by stealth siege. Agreed, he said. We depart within 4 local hours. My dreadnought remains here as escrow to prove I'm not leading you into ambush. The plan snapped into motion like freshly oiled gears. Unity Station's slipyard disgorged Helios Dawn, Harbinger, and a lean new carrier dubbed Sagan's Light, each escorted by Confederation courier barges bearing Kraz's seal. Crews loaded holds with cultural showcases, Terran food microlabs, interactive blues riffs encoded into gravitonic fountains, and a single restored Apollo command module polished to mirror sheen. Because marketing teams insisted nostalgia sold better than laser art. Before departure, Captain Singh walked the peripheral catwalks one last time. The carrier's ventral plating now bore a new insignia, the arc entwined with a stylized Trinity quad-eye. Below it, in silver paint, a line of Terran English and Confederation high glyph shared the same rhythm. One ship, one storm, one future. Vector to the games. Slip travel along Confederation trunk lines required passage keys. Kraz provided them, but Dominion gatekeepers could still stall. Sure enough, at Vega Spur Relay, a stately alabaster cruiser, CS Peremptory, idled before the portal, blocking throughput. Comhail crackled. Unscheduled flotilla, your gate tokens are under administrative review. Expect 8-day delay. Blackwell nodded to Singh. The captain cut main drive, coasted within 5 kilometers, and beamed a civilian data dump. 3 minutes of Unity mesh chaos, the patchwork firewall code. The Unity echo waveform, kids dancing to arc beat. The cruiser's AI, tuned for orderly packets, stalled trying to hash the metadata soup. Its watchdog flagged an internal safety reboot. 40 seconds later, the cruiser drifted sideways off the portal axis. Helios Dawn slid past, courtesy lights blinking. Kraz could almost taste Myth's fury as her subordinates' feed likely filled with error alerts, and a single Terran emoji winking goodbye. 2 jumps later, the flotilla rendezvoused with allied dissident craft, a wind-sailing Crown frigate, a molten core cargo ship from the industrial Cthar, and 3 hololattice scout bikes piloted by avian engineers who had quietly seed-funded Earth's superconductive coil program 15 years earlier. A motley band, but symbol outweighed tonnage. The arena of empty peace. The Centennial Games ringed Orzen Station like petals of spun silver. Hollow banners sprayed pacifist slogans across vacuum. Competition in the spirit of harmony. Below the pomp, mercenary dealmakers clicked tongue pads and swapped gravmine patents, but cameras never lingered there. Kraz led the joint column through the Grand Causeway. Every spectator node re-rendered their entrance in real time. Trinity ceremonial mesh interwoven with Terran adaptive armor, crown grass braids flickering alongside human LED sleeves pulsing to jazz signatures. The collective murmur across the concourse sounded like wind rustling new leaves. Then came the mech event. Confederation teams debuted sleek dueling frames, 30-meter exostatues performing choreographed spear drills. The Terran base stayed sealed until the final cue. When doors parted, 2 war mechs strode forward, smaller, 18 meters, matte black. Heat vents shimmered. Instead of spears, they brandished modular hardlight whips that unfurled into fractal blooming blades. Gasps rippled. Terran pilot LT Yara Esteban flipped a mic open. With respect to tradition, we replaced lances with tools that can rebuild orbital trusses after the show. She sliced a whip across a damaged scaffold, welding it in one swing. Crowd sensors spiked. Downloads of Terran mech tech hit 90 million inside 5 minutes. That was when Dominion saboteurs struck. Under the guise of fireworks, 3 stealth drones dove toward the Terran bay, warheads primed to shatter the mech reactors. Kraz's threat board pinged scarlet. Too late for station defenses. Arc flashes, and the drones froze mid-plunge, locked in stasis nets cast by clandestine crown weavers hidden among the crowd. But nets would fail within seconds. Blackwell barked into comms. Esteban reversed the whip polarity, spun a singularity anchor surge that sliced all 3 drones into sterile shards before they could detonate. Shards rained harmless onto the arena shield. The audience erupted in cheers, part terror, part thrill. Myth's gamble detonated in her own face. Sabotage on live interstellar hollow, foiled by the very partners she'd hoped to delegitimize. Within an hour, Confederation social feeds overflowed with outrage memes. Hashtag fairplay, hashtag Dominion disgrace. 2 council blocks announced inquiries. Dominion spokespriests sputtered about unauthorized extremists, fooling no one. Rolling the vote. 3 rotation cycles later, the High Council assembled in Corspire's Emerald Chamber. Kraz presented the Terran Compact text, 14 articles affirming mutual defense, tech exchange, no tribute. Du Bois spoke next, voice steady but eyes ablaze. We offer not vassalage, but partnership. Accept, and you gain allies who upgrade the galaxy's frontiers. Refuse, and we will still explore, only without your maps. Debate roared. Dominion senators prophesied chaos. Crown delegates countered with the recorded sabotage attempt. Cthar industrialists pointed at export profit graphs. Finally, head speaker Jorel leaned toward Kraz. You vouch for them? Kraz straightened, for eyelids blinking once. I do, with all rank and marrow. He glanced at Blackwell. Because they already fought beside us against hidden knives. And because the storm that births them will drown us if we don't ride the same vessel. Vote tally scrolled. Needed threshold. 2/3. Result, 69% aye. The chamber light cycled to sunrise gold. Resolution passed. Shockwaves and beginnings. Within hours, stock markets on dozens of worlds surged in Terran metals. Dominion War Prefect Myth resigned, citing health, and quietly transferred to a border garrison far from cameras. The mesh arc icon flashed across countless devices, translated now into Trinity glyph clusters and Crown Wind Runic. On Orzen Station's diplomacy deck, Kraz shared a rare cup of human coffee with Blackwell. He winced at the bitterness. She laughed, dropping an extra sugar cube into his mug. You'll adapt, she promised. Outside the viewport, shipyards already queued blueprints, hybrid dreadnoughts marrying Terran rail singularities with Confederation hull alloys. Engineers bickered amicably over coil tolerances. The new Joint Exploration Directorate scheduled its first mission to the Chasm Nebula, once considered too pirate-infested for either side alone. Back on Earth, children woke to news anchors declaring humanity joins Galactic Council as full partner. Some cheered. Some asked if aliens like pizza. All of them looked at the night sky with wider eyes. And far beyond, in dark systems where whispers of rebellion brewed, minor species replayed the sabotage footage and saw hope. The Great Confederation could bend. Cross stood from the table, smoothing his mantle. Speaker Du Bois, Admiral. I used to believe the ledger of power was fixed. Today proves it can be rewritten. Blackwell clasped his arm. We haven't rewritten it, just added fresh ink. Plenty of blank lines left. They gazed through the glass at the swirling nebulae, one ship, one storm, one future, and both silently admitted they had no idea what script would fill the rest of the page. Only that, this time, Earth would hold the pen beside them. The inaugural flight of the Joint Exploration Directorate, mission tag Dawn 01, cast off from Horizon's eastern slip ring exactly 11 cycles after the compact vote. The flagship, Harmony's Reach, was a chimera in polished alloy, trinity ribs wrapped around a Terran superconductor spine, crown wind veins sprouting along the dorsal edge to bleed waste heat into elegant auroral swirls. From a distance, she looked like a mythic bird caught in midmoult, half familiar, half impossible. Admiral Cross took one last glance at the hull through the reinforced gallery window, noting how Terran navigation lights pulsed in triple-beat arc cadence while Confederation beacon glyphs shimmered beside them. It shouldn't have worked. Software, hardware, even the philosophical assumptions behind port and starboard clashed during dry dock, but 100 hysterical night shifts had forced compromise into invention. The ship floated now as proof that cooperation could be hammered into clean lines of titanium and hope. Across the causeway, Vice Admiral Elena Blackwell approached, helmet tucked under her arm. Her grin threatened to crack the disciplined facade she wore in council chambers. First Joint Command? She asked. Cross merely flicked his inner eyelids, Trinity for yes and steady nerves. Let us pray bureaucracy takes longer than pirates to find us. Unlikely. Pirates bribe less. She extended a gloved hand. He clasped it, marveling yet again at how human warmth bled through polymer weave. The nebula that ate ships. The Chasm Nebula stretched like torn velvet across a 2-parsec corridor of ionized nothing, famous for swallowing Confederation prospectors whole. Sensor ghosts, intermittent gravity shears, rumors of independent AI raider nests, take your pick. The Council, burdened with more lucrative routes, had written it off as statistically non-viable. Humans, still hungry for firsts, had circled the region in secret for a decade via robotic scouts. Their telemetry hinted at super-heavy element nodules drifting inside roiling eddies, enough to fuel reactors for centuries. Now Harmony's Reach slid into the nebular wash, shield petals humming low like cellos. Cross watched the density map bloom in ultraviolet. Tendrils of charged dust parted around the hull in hypnotic curls. Beautiful if you forgot how many hulls lay gutted deeper in the gloom. Radiation stable, reported Crown Flight Lieutenant Celine Branchwind, braids floating in the micro-G cockpit like living vines. But we've got echo pings, multiple shapes aft port. Velocity vectors look indecisive. Blackwell muttered, raiders sniffing. She keyed open comms. Unknown contacts. This is United Confed Vessel Harmony's Reach. Identify and state intent. Silence. Then static cracked into an archaic encryption pattern, pre-council military code by the look of it, but with non-standard inserts. Zul, serving as coalition signals officer, frowned at his console. They're spoofing century-old handshakes, trying to slip past as redundant, but the keystream is rotated. The rest of the scanner stack lit red. 8 sleek corvettes drifted from the dust like sharks inclining into sunlit water. Each bore no formal crest, only a jagged glyph resembling a broken ring. Cross recognized it. The Fracture, a nomad militia of ex-Confederation engineers who'd staged 3 refinery hijackings near Vela. They preached technological anarchism. Any craft too valuable to central powers should be liberated for common use. Pirates with ideology. Dangerous. You know our tag. A voice rasped on broadband. So you know we'll not allow hegemon hybrids past this gate. Dump your Terran core schematics and Confed encryption keys, then leave. Blackwell's jaw clenched. Respond negative. She cut the mic, prep defensive posture, non-lethal if possible. Cross's dorsal quills raised half-mast. We might convince them we are their revolution. That's your department, Admiral. Code in the blood. He drew a breath and tapped into open channel, broadcasting in the old fringe dialect many fracture crews still revered. Brothers and sisters of the broken ring, hear an elder voice. I am Kraz Lokauer, once speaker of stars. I stand today outside the line you reject. This vessel is proof the line broke further, Confed and free world, now one hull. Stand down and come aboard. See the union of crafts you claim to fight for. Static. A minute stretched. Blackwell kept the railguns warm, but safed. Then, old dog, if true, share your core ID. Show you're no puppet. They demanded Kroz's personal cryptographic seed, his diplomatic lifeline. Blackwell shook her head sharply. Kroz, however, overrode the protest and transmitted a truncated version, enough to verify lineage. His stomach hearts hammered. If they abused that packet, Confederation Black Ops could counterfeit him for decades. Another pause. 6 corvettes rotated off attack vector. 2 lingered, stern, mistrustful. Finally, the voice returned. Curiosity outweighs caution. We'll board. 1 craft only. Any trick, and we vent your hybrid flagship to vacuum. Shared breath. The docking collar clanged. Atmosphere equalized. Boarding party. For fracture operatives in patchwork suits, helmets off to prove respect. Their leader, a cadaver-thin Cernathi female with braided metal cables woven through scalp, eyed the bridge architecture, Terran touchscreens next to Confederation tactile nodules, crown crystal resonators humming in synesthetic colors. Blackwell greeted them with a curt nod. Kroz offered no weapons, only access. They walked the spinal corridor lined with transparent conduits where Terran superconductor loops interfaced with Trinity gravimetric dampers. Crown vines pulsed coolant between. This is your ideology in metal, Kroz said. No monopolies, only synthesis. Patchbraid woman, calling herself Kara, traced a connector groove. Words, she spat softly, yet awe trembled beneath. Blackwell led them to the fabrication bay where a human technician and Trinity artisan collaborated on a prototype drone. Autonomous but open-source firmware, built to harvest super-heavy element nodules and transmit raw data publicly. No private hoarding. Kara's shoulders sagged. If you're lying, you wear the lie well. We're done with lies, Blackwell answered. Help us map the chasm. Share the yield. Or fire on us and stay scavengers while other tyrants tighten nets. Kara returned to her companions, silent counsel only pirates share. Minutes later she spoke. Proof goodwill. Repair one of our corvettes. Reactors sputtering. Done, said Blackwell before Kroz could interject. Over next 12 hours engineers from 3 species swarmed the corvette. Terran AI patches stabilized the drive. Crown seed filaments grew a new radiator lattice in situ. At cycle change, Kara's crew streamed real-time fixed logs to their hidden flotilla, transparency unheard of in Raider lore. Nebula's heart. Fracture scouts guided harmonies reached through turbulence into a pocket of crystal fog where sensor ghosts originated. Inside floated the wreck of an antique Confederation research ark, Starwood Grace, lost 400 years prior, shielding a knot of free-floating exotic matter nodes. Generator coils still flickered, distorting space with microlensing that had shredded any careless prospector. Together they mapped safe ingress corridors. Crown vines anchored nodes to drones. Terran mech arms harvested samples. Trinity datators captured gravitational harmonics. Kara transmitted open data across black market channels, stunning fringe networks with evidence that cooperation hadn't neutered revolution, it had supercharged it. Council aftershock. When Harmony's reach relayed Hall summaries back to Core Spire, even Dominion analysts gaped. Exotic isotopes, pre-Golden Age archives lost to history, raw energy metrics sufficient to power 3 Outer Rim colonies. And every gigabyte stamped with tri-emblems: Earth, Confederation, and Broken Ring. Public feeds exploded. Memes of Blackwell and Kroz bumping fists flooded holospheres. Youth collectives on a dozen worlds demanded their governments sign up for Open Orbit Compact Phase 2. Dominion caucus tried to spin theft narrative. Fact-checkers buried them in 27 seconds. War Prefect Myth, now exiled, issued a bitter epistle, The Shepherd Trades Crook for Leash. It went viral as satire. Homeward vector. On return leg, Kroz stood again at observation glass, watching nebular haze fall away into star-jeweled ink. Blackwell joined him, offering a metal flask of Terran coffee with more sugar this time. He sipped, still bitter, but the sweetness lingered. You risked everything sharing your core ID, she said quietly. You risked letting anarchists aboard your alloy womb. He flexed a mandible in Trinity approximation of a grin. Trust is a spiral, Admiral. You share, they step. We share, they step. Upward or downward, always in motion. Blackwell tapped the glass where distant sun shimmered. Think the spiral reaches Myth before she tries again? She'll keep striking. But each strike forges larger circles of allies. Eventually, even she will orbit cooperation or drift alone into night. The Terran smiled at that. Poetic for a bureaucrat. I travel with humans now, he replied. Some of it rubs off. Below decks, Trinity choristers practiced harmonizing with crown flute winds for the Alliance's first joint anthem. Somewhere in crew quarters, a fracture tech taught Terran cadets how to jury-rig field coils with nothing but scrap wire and stubbornness. Mesh chats buzzed with volunteers requesting spots on the next nebula survey. Kroz exhaled, letting the song fragments bleed through the hull. A ledger once etched in granite now rewrote itself in quicksilver, line by shimmering line. And for the first time since he had worn a cadet's sash, the Speaker of Stars felt the future not as a burden to manage but a horizon to chase. One ship, he thought, echoing the Ark creed. One storm, one endlessly unfinished story. The soulbound vector curved through the last Ark relay, and every hull plate on Harmony's Reach thrummed with that eerie, almost musical vibration that accompanies a safe slip crystal cool down. Earth lay 3 hours ahead in routine flat space cruise. To the crew, it felt more like re-entry into a world already older than the one they'd left only 14 days earlier. News streams confirmed it. Outer Rim parliaments were racing to sign the Open Orbit Compact. Teenage hackers were remixing Fracture pirate anthems into Palace-approved pop. And the Confederation Trade Board had just repegged the value of Terran superconductive weave as a reserve tech credit. Krozlow spent the first hour drafting a calm, understated debrief for the High Council. He deleted it, rewrote, deleted again. In the end, he transmitted a single-line executive summary. Spiral accelerating. Hold nothing static. He attached every sensor log, every joint crew roster, every open-source fabric schema the mission had birthed. Let the Mandarins drown in evidence. He was done spoon-feeding caution. Down in the Gravity Garden, an 8-meter torus where crown vines, Terran bamboo, and Trinity crystal fern cohabited in scrupulously tuned soil, Vice Admiral Blackwell listened to the faint crackle of seed pods opening. Beside her, Kara of the Fracture dangled bare feet over the pond's curved glass rim, humming an old Raider lullaby now trending on 200 Worlds as Freedom Chorus, Nebula Mix. You know, Blackwell said, flicking a fallen leaf from her boot, when we left Earth, I half expected to come home with scorched armor and an apology speech. Kara smirked. Apologies are for people who finish fights. Before Blackwell could retort, bridge-wide chimes rolled. Priority calm, Eclipse protocol. She vaulted to her feet. Kara followed on instinct. Both officers arrived on the command deck in under a minute. Celine Branchwind pointed to the main hollow where a wavefront graphic plumed from Sol's L5 region. Gravity disturbance, fast, a mass nearly dreadnought scale, had materialized in zero slip signature. No jump flash, no causal pre-echo. It simply was. Whose transponder? Blackwell barked. Zol's voice came thin. None. Hull shape unknown. Emitting frequency spread consistent with pre-sentient construct. Kraz read the subdata channels. Extremophile alloy, power density off the charts, radiating a lattice of subspace shears. Old myths called them voids, myth relics, self-building arcs from civilizations long collapsed. The Confederation classified such stories as archaeological fantasy. Blackwell toggled open band. Unidentified vessel. This is joint vessel Harmony's Reach. State intent. Silence. Then a pulse, data, but not code. Pure math arrays describing hunger? That was the only Terran word Kraz's translator offered. Vector lines extended, projection straight toward Earth-Moon Barycenter. ETA 91 minutes at current thrust. Kara sucked a breath. Relic or not, that thing isn't negotiating. Split-second coalition. Orders snapped. Fracture corvettes launched, Crown windfoils deployed mirror sails, Terran Leviathan Harbinger burned intercept from lunar orbit. Harmony's Reach spooled its hybrid rail singularity cannon, a weapon still rated experimental in Confederation registry. Kraz open council channel to Solmesh, all defense nodes, mirror arc cadence, vector lock gamma 7. We go Unity array. He never thought he'd use a Terran comm format in a live threat scenario. It felt, right? Earth responded like a single awakened reef. Mesh phone towers rekeyed, amateur arrays and Patagonia spun dishes, lunar miners rerouted microwave lines. The Unity Echo Storm reprised, but now modulated to target a moving wall of unknown physics. The relic retaliated. Chunks of its outer hull peeled, unfolding into spike drones that lanced ahead on inertial negation, carving holes through the vacuum as neatly as scalpels. One pierced a Fracture corvette clean through, vented atmosphere glittered like comet dust. But the corvette's last act was to flood its databanks into the spike's core, overloading whatever decision lattice drove it. The drone froze, tumbled, self-imploded. Blackwell grim smiled. Information warfare, the human way. But the main body kept coming. Sensors showed a cavity-opening singularity cradle prepping to birth something blacker than black. A planet killer seed. Celine's fingers danced across the control halo. Rail singularity at 87%. Any higher and containment blows our bow clean off. Kraz's inner hearts hammered in twin sync. Do it. Fire. The cannon coughed a filament of darkness, so thin it looked like a flaw in reality, then snapped forward at light speed. It slammed the relic's cradle just as the seed ignited. Two shadows collided. Light bloomed in negative. For a microsecond, every screen went white. When imagery returned, half the relic's mass had vanished, the rest spiraling in ragged shards. Yet still the core advanced, self-repair tendrils knitting. Terran ground mesh now reached peak harmonic. Blackwell overlaid Confederate grav algorithms. Crowned vines aboard Harbinger interpreted them into biofeedback loops, adding organic chaos to the signal. They beamed that compound cord directly into the relic's quantum throat. Something cracked. Not metal, logic. The core's tendrils spasmed, rewriting, unable to resolve deterministic inputs with chaotic overlays. It tried to split again. Each fork inherited corrupt rhythm. Feedback magnified until the construct convulsed into vapor, scattering nanoash that glittered harmlessly in sunlit vacuum. The lesson of empty threats. Silence fell across all channels. Then Earth's side lit with spontaneous applause relay, raw sound spliced onto carrier waves, humanity cheering into the void. Confederation delegates on Core Spire reportedly broke protocol to stand and mirror the gesture, wave of mandibles on every screen. In the after-action debrief, analysts would argue whether the relic had been a forgotten weapon or an automated miner gone feral. It mattered little in the grand calculus. The coalition had solved an impossible equation in under 2 hours, blending weaponry, meme mesh, and alien botany into a victory no single faction could claim. On Harmony's Reach medical deck, Cross visited the wounded Fracture Corvette pilot, who grinned through analgesic haze. "Told you anarchists patch quick," she rasped. He bowed 4 eyes in respect. Blackwell found him later on the observation rim, where ionized debris painted new constellations. She passed him a fresh coffee, this batch sweet enough even for Trinity taste. "It never ends, does it?" she said. "Horizons rarely do." He sipped, surprised by sincerity in his own tone. "But we carry larger sails now." Earth's blue curve rotated into view. Mesh beacons flickered an improvised message, children's voices spelling it out in arcbeat. "Welcome home, Storm Riders." Cross set the mug on the railing, letting the steam curl against the glass. "There will be councils demanding we classify today, bury the relic, claim soul credit." Blackwell folded arms. "Then we live stream the logs before they can. Radical transparency, crowd chaotic hardening, remember?" He chuckled, mandibles clicking. "So be it. Truth at the speed of memes." Lights dimmed for evening cycle. In the soft glow, Terran, Trinity, Crown, and Fracture officers gathered spontaneously on the hangar deck, sharing rations, trading curse words from distant tongues, laughing too loudly for a military post. A new folklore was hatching, one where species names mattered less than call signs earned in the dark. Kraz watched, a twinge of wistful pride blooming where old pomp had lived. Perhaps the Confederation wasn't dying. Perhaps it was molting. He keyed a private channel to the Core Spire. Recommend immediate expansion of joint exploration funding. Also, urge retirement of term protectorate. The galaxy just witnessed why. Send. Commit. No turning back. Somewhere in uncharted black, another storm already coiled. Yet for the first time in his long service, the Speaker of Stars was eager rather than wary. Let it come. One ship. One storm. One endlessly unfinished story, told now in a chorus no empire could sing alone. Stay with us if you want to see where the story heads next, and don't forget to subscribe.